Welcome to Law Next PR, the podcast where we put a spotlight on the latest news coming out of the legal tech industry. This is Bob Ambrogi, and in each sponsored episode of Law Next PR, I interview a legal tech company about its latest news and developments. Today, we're talking about the company Aiden Technologies and its launch of Aiden Rescue, a solution for recovering and rebuilding Windows devices after a ransomware attack or other catastrophic IT failure. Joining me to discuss the news is Josh Aaron, the co-founder and chief executive officer of Aiden Technologies. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having us.
Good to see you again. Before we talk about the news, why don't you tell us a little bit about Aiden Technologies and what you do?
Sure. Aiden stands for Artificial Intelligence for Desktops and Enterprise Networks. We launched the brand.
I never knew that.
2020. You never knew that, right? We launched the brand in 2020. Funny story about that. People used to say, don't say AI. No one's going to believe you. And then, of course, AI exploded to what it is today. Aiden is software deployment for Microsoft Windows enterprises at scale. Essentially, it's an AI bot that makes sure every Windows computer gets built from scratch perfectly. So we build machines from bare metal, we call that, whether it's a virtual machine or physical. We fully provision them, we patch them, and we protect them by making sure that everything on the machine stays up to date. But we also remove software that shouldn't be there. So I like to say we ensure the machine has everything it should have and remove any software that shouldn't be on it. And we do it based on a plain English policy. So the bot is reading plain English, and that's a big part of our invention. It uses natural language processing to then come up with a task sequence and make the machine exactly what you've said it should be by your policies.
So endpoint management is kind of the term of art for what you do, right? Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah. And actually, also 5 years ago, I think we said we're autonomous endpoint management because we're doing it. And now we're starting to see that in like the Gartner hype cycle and all that kind of stuff as a term that's coming out, even though everyone still says UEM or Unified Endpoint Management. And we are Windows only right now. We are a Windows solution designed to work with Windows Enterprise.
Yeah. What's the autonomous part mean?
In most tools that are out there today, and there's a number of them, even Microsoft's own and Microsoft Endpoint Manager solutions, they are designed for engineers to do the work inside the tool, and the tool is kind of a framework to make things a little easier. So you think of like an agent that's on your machine that can reach the machine, and then an engineer decides what software to deploy to the machine and in what order to deploy it, and then tries to artfully do that through the tool. We have a little bot that plugs into the tool, and we're agnostic to the tool, anything that can deploy software to the endpoint. The bot actually scans the machine. The bot figures out what software on the machine needs to be updated, reconfigured, or removed. And not just third-party applications, Windows OS updates, drivers, firmware, BIOS, every binary on the machine to put that machine into what we call desired state configuration. So autonomous really means autonomous. You schedule it to run. Our customers are the ones in control of the timing, the scheduling. They know when it's okay and not okay to disrupt certain parts of their population or users. But the bot does all the work, and the engineer really just has to schedule it.
What was your background that got you to co-found this company?
30-plus year career in IT. I started in trading floors and data centers and things like that. I have a consulting company in New York City that does a lot of that work. Even moved like the New York Board of Trade, the Commodities Exchange. Then as I got on in my career, I was a CTO in healthcare for 7 years, and then a CTO in private equity for 2 years. And that's where I met my technical co-founder, Sean Maloney. Sean had this product that helped us in private equity, and the rest is history. We just met. It worked so well in our firm. We were the second customer of the technology. I ended up resigning and going to join him in 2020, and we've been working together ever since and on a great journey together.
And Josh, I know that you're not exclusively focused on the legal industry, but talk about your work in the legal industry. How much of your business is that? What kind of firms do you work with?
Sure. Well, myself, historically, I also worked with law firms back when I had my consultancy, some large ones like Gibbons and Kramer Levin, people like that in New York. We used to do a lot of corporate relocations and network implementations and things. And we saw that this was a big problem all the time in law firms when we worked in law firms. So then when Aiden started, even though we got our start in private equity, I quickly wanted to go involve the company with law firms to help them because they're the ones that are holding everybody's data. Plus, just like in private equity, Partners in law firms really want to be highly productive. They don't like it when IT is disruptive to their workflow. And Aiden has a really unique way of improving what we call the digital employee experience and making sure there's minimal reboots. It's very easy to get things done in the background to install app updates with our technology. And so we are a lot less disruptive to the attorneys and their associates in their workflow. And that's really been a good thing for us. So we started in legal about 3 years ago. I think I met you at our first ILTACon that we attended. And now we've grown quite a bit. When we got into legal, financial services companies were probably about 80% of our market for Aiden. And now legal and financial are tied for first place, essentially, each with about, I think, around 31% market share in terms of our customer base for Aiden. So we are very focused on the legal industry, and we're going to all the legal events in the industry and getting more and more customers in law firms.
And are there particular sizes of law firms that you're focused on? I assume you're at the sort of the higher end of the market.
We are. We have law firms that are small, medium, and large. But I think because of the nature of what Aiden does, we are solving application packaging and software deployment at scale. And it's great for small firms, but the larger an organization or an enterprise is, the more value they can extract from the product because these problems become magnified at scale. Trying to take care of 5,000 end users is a lot more work for IT than trying to take care of 50 or 100 end users. So, we're certainly seeing that law firms in the 15,000 endpoint range are extremely interested in what we're doing now, and we're getting several of those.
As we are speaking, you have just announced the launch of Aiden Rescue. Tell us about it. What is Aiden Rescue?
Aiden Rescue is something I'm super excited about. Aiden Rescue is something our customers have been hoping for and asking for a long time. And we have a robust customer advisory board. One of the large law firms is on it. But the concept is that Aiden can wipe and rebuild a machine from bare metal as long as it's attached to the network today. But what's coming in the next couple of days is we are able to now wipe and rebuild a machine from anywhere in the world over the public internet. So as long as you have access to the computer physically and to the internet, you can get underneath the Windows operating system and completely wipe and rebuild your machine by connecting to the Aiden cloud and rescuing the machine. But because of Aiden's unique technology and our unique product in full provisioning, you're not just getting kind of what we call a pre-installed environment or a pre-provisioned computer where you can barely do a few things and get on the internet. We can bring the computer back for each user to exactly where it was before. So imagine another CrowdStrike bad day where everybody's machines are blue screened and they can't get on the machine at all. And the hard drives are encrypted so they can't get in. Aiden can boot underneath all of that and completely wipe and rebuild the machine and restore it to the place where it was when they last used it. And imagine a bad ransomware event where all your machines are hit with malware or some kind of ransomware. Same idea. Instead of days or months of shipping machines back to the headquarters location or wherever you're building them, or possibly having to, send people out to people's homes or home offices or remote offices, we can just have the end users press a button on their machine, boot into the Aiden bot, and connect to our cloud and completely recover their machine to a fully provisioned state, or what we call desired state configuration again, and get back every single application. In fact, it may even be better than it was before because any updates that were ganged up during that time or waiting are also going to take place. So the machine doesn't get infected again.
And what happens when you're rebuilding those individual machines? What happens to the whole network connectivity and that aspect of it?
Well, we have a content delivery network that we work with, so it's extremely efficient in terms of the way that it brings the payload of all the software down on the machine. I mean, it's certainly going to take a little bit of bandwidth on your home network or your remote office network or your hotel, wherever you are, but nothing unreasonable, certainly nothing more than like a streaming song or video or something. It's just going to take a little while to bring the content down, but we've tested it many, many times. We've done some, customer testing as well, and it works great.
Yeah.
Really easy to implement.
Yeah. I guess what I meant is if you're connecting into your law firm's network and the law firm has also been compromised in some way, wouldn't that typically be the scenario if that was happening or not? Is that not necessarily the case?
Yeah, well, what's happening with us is you are going to re-authenticate to your network twice, actually, in the process to make sure that we know who you are and that Microsoft knows who you are. Our customers are typically using Microsoft networks or Windows solution. So we're leveraging Microsoft's Entra ID in the process. And it's a zero trust implementation. So everything we're doing is validating who you are, what company you're a part of, and is it good and known good along the way. So yeah, obviously we're not going to connect anybody into a compromised segment of anybody's network or anything like that. This would be something that gets implemented by IT and then rolled out to the end users once they know that there's a known good network to come back to, so to speak.
I see. Okay. Josh, you alluded to this, but what is the process that this replaces? What would typically be done in this scenario?
We've had companies that have been unfortunate victims of things like this when I was in my consulting business. And the typical scenario is your IT is reaching out to all the end users, asking them to wait for a FedEx box to show up, put the machine in a box, send it back to headquarters. In the meantime, they're scrambling to order new machines and set them up and get them out. And usually in the scramble, they're doing kind of what we call pre-provisioning. They're just putting the basic apps on there and getting them out there. It's not always fully configured with everything. So people are lucky to get a working machine in their hands in a few days. Maybe, at the outside a week or 2 weeks. And then once they get it, it may not have the right version of all the software that they need to be fully productive in their jobs. Microsoft has a technology called Autopilot that can help with some of these kinds of things where you can drop ship users' computers and you can build them. But it's what Microsoft calls it pre-provisioning. So again, it's only putting down some basic applications that users need. Maybe the Microsoft Office 365 suite and, a couple of tools or something. It's not fully building out everything. I mean, imagine all your integrations, Excel plugins, things that people use in Word and templates and even different font libraries that they may use in a firm because that's part of their letterhead or their standards. All of that stuff down to every last thing, including where you like things on the start menu, how you've kind of customized things can be restored largely. So it really brings people back to a fully working, fully recovered, or we call fully provisioned endpoint or desktop.
And does it more quickly? And I
With
would assume
complete automation.
yeah.
Yeah,
What about the cost? How does the cost of doing it through Aiden Rescue compare to manually? I guess would be the other
sure.
way to do it. Yeah.
I guess you could say it depends on what people are doing manually, but if they're going and rushing out and buying new machines to try to get them in people's hands quickly rather than waiting for the one they're shipping back, then obviously you have the cost of all those new machines, which could be $1,000 to $2,000 a user, something like that. You have shipping back and forth on rush. So you're probably looking at a couple $100 for shipping. You have the time that IT and IT engineers are spending to manually go through this process and build all of that stuff. And that's disruptive to all the other work that may be going on in the company. And then you have the lost productivity where someone maybe didn't have a computer for up to 2 or 3 weeks. We've even seen extreme situations where it just took longer. There were problems with shipping or it was a widespread attack that hit a lot of companies and parts and hardware weren't available. I've seen situations over my career where it took people up to 2 months to get fully recovered. Imagine contrasting that with none of those costs. You're already paying for an Aiden license for Aiden Rescue. And when you need it, you just press a button and at the end user side, and IT is all prepared for that. And it completely wipes and rebuilds the machine in anywhere from 45 minutes to maybe as high as 2.5 hours, depending on their bandwidth. But in a couple of hours, they're fully recovered. And you can cascade this out to everybody in your enterprise in probably less than a day or two.
That sounds really cool. How common of a problem is this in the legal industry? Again, understand that you serve many different industries, but how common is it that there are ransomware attacks or other kinds of attacks in legal?
Well, unfortunately, it's pretty common. I remember last year, I don't know the stats right now this year. I should look at that. But I remember last year in June, we were looking at a report that came out from Bloomberg Law Business, Bloomberg Law, I think it was, or Bloomberg Business. And it said that 21 law firms had been hit with ransomware by June. Oh, that was 2024. 2025, I heard it's grown. It's even worse.
Right. And those are the
I mean,
ones you know of.
those are the ones you know of. Those are the ones that reported. Obviously, it's still a massive problem. Then, of course, we had CrowdStrike last year. So we've seen that, a software problem can actually blue screen your machine. And so the ability to recover this quickly is unprecedented. And to do it over the internet, nobody's been able to do that before. To our knowledge, we feel we're pioneering in this area and that we're the first company able to offer it with full provisioning. We've seen some things where you can get access to the machine, you can do some light stuff on it, but the ability to fully re-provision the machine and be in a place where somebody can be 100% productive on their computer the way they were before, we haven't seen that yet.
That's really great. Sounds great. We're just about out of time here, but what else would you like people to know about Aiden Rescue that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I think one other thing I would like people to know is some of the same technology that enables Aiden Rescue also enables IT departments to build machines remotely. So if it wasn't a rescue scenario, but you just, for whatever reason, you're setting up a remote office somewhere, a small law office somewhere, and you don't have a full network at that location, but you need to build machines at that location, you can fully provision machines over the public internet using our technology with or without Microsoft's Autopilot. We do it both ways. So if you're an Autopilot shop and you're using Intune and Autopilot with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, we integrate with it and we take over and fully provision the machine. But even if you just don't have Autopilot in your organization, you could now build machines using Aiden's technology, fully provisioning. We call that cloud-based full provisioning. So really, yes, Aiden Rescue is the highlight here, because in a disaster scenario or some other bad day kind of scenario, the ability to wipe and recover is important. But we're also giving great utility to the IT engineers within law firms and all of our customers so that they can build machines anywhere in the world over the public internet and fully provision them at scale.
And as you're announcing this, when is it actually available to customers?
So it's available to customers now. We are kind of slowly rolling it out. So we have a waiting list. We are not going to be able to onboard. We've had so much demand already, just from kind of word of mouth demand and things like that. We've created a waiting list, but we expect that we'll be able to, at this point, get people in within 3 to 4 weeks off the waiting list. And as demand grows, we'll have to see. But you can go to our website, you can join the waiting list there. And, we will get people in as soon as we possibly can. But yes, they have to be configured for Aiden Rescue. And so there is an small onboarding lift that has to be done with each firm. But once they're on, they can go ahead and use the solution.
Josh, congratulations on this launch, and thanks for coming on the show and telling us all about it.
Thank you, Bob. Pleasure to be here, and hope you have a great rest of the year.
Thanks. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or you can find us on YouTube. Just search for LawNext PR there. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for being with us today.